Which situation will always create high sexual tension? Swimming alone together. When you're sitting next to someone you like who likes you back and your knees/legs start touching but neither of you pull away so you're both just aware that you're touching and getting closer. Multiple instances of accidental eye contact. Deleted. When a fanfic writer types and there was only one bed. Night swimming. If you ever get invited night swimming you're in for a helluva time. In college I got a pretty meh haircut and was lamenting about it to a group of friends. One girl chimed in that she could fix it for me and she had all the tools in her room to do it. We went back to her dorm room, and she slowly spent a lot of time snipping little bits of my hair, moving around me, and we made a fuck ton of eye contact while she checked it from every angle. She'd get in close to check things, and I could feel her breath on my neck, or she'd run her fingers through my hair and across my scalp to pull some up to be trimmed. The tension was so thick I could barely breathe and she did a great job on my hair. When I was in HS my guy friend braided my hair and brushed it. The tension was thick. I still remember how I felt with him these 20-some years later. Sitting behind a lady at a pottery wheel helping her make a vase. Bonus points if one or both people are ghosts. When you hang out in a group get-together all day and everything dies down until it's just the two of you talking in the middle of the night. Being stuck in an elevator with someone who you have major chemistry with. Literally anything involving adrenaline. Scary situations, roller coasters, horror movies, etc. The heightened levels of arousal, physical not sexual, that come with those situations get the juices flowing and the two people are much more likely to attach those intense feelings to each other than the actual stressor. It's called the misattribution of arousal phenomenon. Being the last two people at work. Bonus points if it's in the lab behind a lot of restricted access doors. It's quiet. It's private. Neither of you are speaking because you are concentrating or trying to let the other person concentrate. So, of course, your imagination picks this time to revert to maximum creativity and sexual fantasy despite you trying to suppress it. Times like this I wish I could manually disable the lizard parts of my brain. Accidental touching but neither of you move, like when you're in the back seat of a car and your thighs touch. Or your legs touch under a table. Being in a small, dark enclosed space with someone else. Hide and seek as a tween was an informative experience for me, even though nothing actually happened. What's a subtle sign that someone is not a nice person? A sense of humor that somehow just makes people feel bad about themselves. Always playing the victim. Likes to make a joke of other people, but can't stand being the butt of a joke themselves. Backhanded compliments. When they always playfully insult you, but can't handle any criticism about themselves at all. They talk about how nice they are. They keep reminding you that they're a nice person. Talking crap about others to get a laugh. You can tell pretty quick if it's mean-spirited. Another one is if they always tell their side of the story like they can do nothing wrong and how everyone hates them for absolutely no reason. They'll sometimes also plot to fuck people over for absolutely no reason. That's signs of a straight manipulator. Currently dealing with someone like that but he doesn't know we know that he's trying to ruin our lives. Edit, this is my first time a comment I made got a lot of attention. Especially considering how I'm rarely on here. I know it's a cliché to say this but thank you for the rewards and upvotes. Edit 2, I'm glad to know that many people have similar stories to mine. I posted it on a thread under this comment. Nice to know that I'm not alone here. Littering. Everything you say you've done they've done twice. Their words don't match their actions. How they talk about other people in general. My opinion of someone changes drastically just based on how they discuss other people. Someone who talks too much shit is not a nice person, and if they're doing it about other people to you, they do it to other people about you. Edit, grammar. They treat people they consider beneath them like crap. Don't mistake niceness for goodness. Some of the best, most morally consistent and forward-thinking people I know are also rigid and unpleasant to deal with. And some of the slimiest, most backstabbing sons of bitches I work with every day are nice enough to charm you into loving them. Niceness is a demeanor, goodness is a core value. But to the intent of the question, being rude to service staff is the #1 way to lose my respect. What was the most gruesome thing you saw at your school? Witnessed the end of a girl being jumped by about 6 other girls in high school. Don't know what exactly they cut her face with but they tried to cut her eye out and did a pretty close job. Sadly she went blind in that eye. That was sophomore year and she graduated with us as the second highest GPA. The amount of blood that was there and the eye almost hanging out of her skull was just wild to see. Saw a kid die from cardiac arrest at wrestling practice. I was in 6th grade, he was a 7th grader. We were doing a takedown drill. Him and his partner were right next to me. He got taken down and stopped breathing. Turned purple. They rushed us out of the gym. Apparently, he had a hole in his heart and the doctors warned him not to do sports. Rib. Our female gym teacher was a tough lady, built similarly to WWE's China if that helps paint a picture. Anyhow, kind of a rough school district in the city, and the gym teacher had just gotten this fucking rough-ass girl suspended for fighting. Upon rough-ass girl returning to school, word was she was going to attack the gym teacher. And well, she did. Only this rough-ass girl, she had sticks in her face from the previous fight, and the gym teacher went right for the stitches. She grabbed them by the handful and just ripped the stitches right out of the girl's face, right there in gym class. In self-defense. My 8th grade year I saw a kid got run over by a school bus. He died later that day. Classmate turned his thumb inside out with a table saw. Blood didn't squirt, it just oozed out in big drops. Still picture one guy eating a chocolate cupcake while looking closely at the wound. A guy in woodshop class turned up a lathe at too high a setting, had some boards glued together I think and wanted to make a bat or something. He revved it up and applied a chisel or something during the process, the wood blew apart and it gouged out one of his eyes. Blood everywhere. A kid tripped during cross-country practice and broke his arm. And by broke, I mean broke. About of the third of the way down the forearm it was bent 45 degrees. When he got up it was flopping like a dead fish. Wasn't any blood, and the kid wasn't screaming, either, according to him he couldn't feel a thing. The juxtaposition of such an obviously bad injury with the kid casually laughing like wow, my arm looks weird was profoundly unsettling. Edit, to narrow it down, this happened almost 10 years ago in the Northeast US to one of a set of identical twins. One of y'all contacts me and I found the same shit happened somewhere else I'm gonna be freaked out. At my high school there were 2 kids, twins, who had I believe cerebral palsy, mild to moderate cases. They weren't intellectually disabled, but they had a trouble communicating sometimes as they both spoke with a pronounced stutter. Sweetest kids, super bubbly, always had a kind word to say to everyone, always smiling, whip smart, the kind of students who couldn't go for a class change without having a friendly conversation with someone in the hallway. I remember they were both really into bugs and their final projects in science classes would always involve entomology in some way. Just utter delights. Some dipshit in our freshman year decided that it would be funny to make a fake Facebook page for one of the kids and make a bunch of vile posts about them being sadomasochistic sexual deviants, posting long lists about their kinks and experiences and that they would pay people to have sex with them in the bathrooms between classes. Sociopathic shit. For some reason this dipshit thought it would be a smart move to brag about making this to a couple of his friends, who were also shitheads but had enough moral sense to realize that this was a special kind of fucked up. A kid who was always a bit on the tough side got in fights, had a bit of a loud mouth, but was ultimately a good person confronted shithead during class change one day. He had taken a glue stick, very hard plastic, from his locker, and in the middle of telling shithead off, he jammed it underneath this kid's jaw as hard as he could. Fucking shattered it. Knocked a couple of teeth out. Blood, mouth tissue, and a small piece of shithead's tongue splattered against the floor and the lockers. His screams could be heard through the entire wing. I didn't see shithead in school after that, but the kid who hit him came back after a 2-week suspension and was a hero until graduation. Shithead actually turned out alright, believe it or not. Got sent to some crazy harsh military school that straightened him out. Last I heard he was a scuba instructor in Bermuda or something. He seems really happy. Kid his neck broke in a wrestling match by a dude slamming him in a full Nelson. Circa 2006, before phone cameras and such thankfully. His poor parents. I watched 2 girls fight and one grabbed the other by the back of the head and ran her face along the concrete sidewalk. It happened so fast and was over before anyone could break it up. Needless to say the girl with the pavement facial lost the fight. Our star basketball player died on the court during an afternoon practice. He had an undiagnosed heart condition and that was that. The rest of us players were shuffled into the other gymnasium as a coach grabbed a defibrillator, but at that point it was too late. It was a very sad and surreal experience. A kid grabbed some fries from another kid's tray during lunch. Other kid leaps up, grabs him, and bangs his head into a metal railing until it's bleeding. Also in the parking lot a kid I barely knew pulled me aside, and popped his trunk open. Inside were several AK-47s. Not gruesome, but pretty surprising for the time. This was 1995. When I was in middle school I went to a school that took in kids from various economic backgrounds. There was this kid who had been part of a particular friend group for quite some time, I think since elementary, but in middle school they decided to give him the nickname PK, short for poor kid. As you can imagine he was not a fan. We will call him Eric, but I'm not sure what his name actually was. I was not really around for all of this as I was not in this group, but I was friends with some people in it, so I had been getting live updates. There was one kid who was the one that had created the nickname and made sure it was catching on. His name was maybe Sean. Sean and Eric had been very good friends until all this started happening. Basically Sean would call Eric PK in all their interactions and Eric would ask him not to. I was there when this happened once or twice. I was sitting a table over from this group one day and I hear a scream. I look over and see Eric sitting across from Sean. Eric had a fork in his hat and had stabbed Sean's hand with it while it was sitting palm down on the table. Apparently Sean had called Eric PK one too many times and Eric had decided since words weren't working he would just stab him with his fork. It went almost all the way through his hand and a teacher walked him out of the cafeteria with the fork still in his hand. If you are out there Eric, good job. Someone threw an Arizona iced tea bottle at a kid's face. Split him open about 6 inches. During 4th grade my elementary school had a tall rusted fence that blocked the schoolyard from the outside, and some kid tried to climb it to get a ball back. He slipped on top and his arm got stuck by the top of the railing, perforating his arm and cutting it deep almost from wrist to elbow. He collapsed from shock and loss of blood still stuck to the railing. Fortunately the fire department got there in less than 15 minutes and they got the kid out of it, saving him. He has this huge scar in his arm, but it's alive, well and moves his arm well. To this day I can't shake that image out of my mind.